It's funny, like we always talk about how that great Kilkenny team, the best matches they ever got were in training, and like Michael Darragh Macaulay was obviously enjoying the post-match stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there was I didn't enjoy being a sub. And you can see that. And you can see, like, even in the pre-match photographs, there's a bunch of people who don't look particularly happy about the fact that they're not in the match day 26.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of people who aren't happy about the fact they're not starting. And, like, that pressure within that group will continue to go on. Does everybody walk away who wanted to walk away at the start of the year, or do they stick around now because it's 5 in a row and you're going to be part of the 5 in a row team?
I think purely because of the fact that they are so good and that they are going for, you know, the 5 in a row, you'd probably say, right, I'm going to get myself in a position where at least someone's going to make up the decision for me, not myself.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's probably where you get to, because I think you'd feel pretty sick, you know, if you did say, oh no, I just don't have it in me.
Yeah.
And then you see and they go get 5 in a row and stuff like that. Like, but I watched closely now. I watched Paddy Andrews closely. I watched Bernard closely yesterday. I watched, you know, just after the game. And as I think Fenton and Kilkenny grabbed Sam Maguire and they went running towards the hill, and the boys kind of looked like as if they were going to go into the dressing room, and Gavin kind of corralled them up and said, listen, go join your teammates type of thing. Now, you know, but it is hard. It has to, like, everyone will tell you, you know, everyone says, no, you're part of the team, you're just not.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, on that particular moment, it takes a lot of strong will to kind of say, yeah, I really want to get into this, because there's the disappointment, there's the questions hanging over you, there's all those different things, and all of a sudden you come from, well, I was actually at the centre of that, to now I'm actually standing on the outside looking in. And although you've got the jersey and you've got the medal and you've all that stuff,
It's not the same.
It's not the same, you know.
If I was talking to them, if I was part of the management setup, you would be saying that there's a chance for you to get back in. Who knows what's going to happen next year?
Yeah.
But also that in years to come, your role in this 5 in a row will never be diminished. Like, you were the driving force behind getting us there in the first place, set the standards, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And by not being around when the 5 in a row happens and not having those photographs, you're diminishing yourself a little bit. Like, you're missing out on something that you have absolutely helped to set up. So stick around, lads. Come on.
You have to go. The way you have to probably look at it is what you say. You have to kind of. You're going to listen. This is now beyond you as a person. You know. So when you were 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and you were learning off the likes of, say, Kieran Whelan or David Henry or Jason Sherlock, they were carrying the baton that you're carrying now. So those guys were going through a very lean period with no All-Irelands.
Yeah.
And then they handed this over to you and they schooled you and everything that they needed to school you. Now, things were honed in, but it's now your turn to do that to the likes of Howard and Scully and these fellas. Like, I mean, you know, you hear Michael Darragh Macaulay talking about the training sessions, and, you know, those in-house games have to be, like, unless you're at that level where you're actually killing each other, you know, you're absolutely killing each other. I wouldn't mind, like, I mean, I'm sure there was fisticuffs, I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that goes on, because that's what needs to go on. I remember the best training sessions we had before, you know, All-Irelands and semi-finals and different stuff, going back into the, whatever, from 2000 on with me, was like, I mean, fellas would be just, there'd be fights happening everywhere, you know, like, I mean, and Boylan and whoever else, Coyler, would be just letting it go.
Yeah.
Now, okay, if it got a bit too much out of hand, but you have to have that intensity. You have to have that. You have my jersey, and I am doing my level best to take that off you.
Yeah.
So even for that, because there is a lot of onus on the likes of Bernard and Paddy Andrews and O'Gara and Paul Flynn and these fellas to say, no, I need to pass that baton on again and ensure that maybe the next 4 or 5 who come into the panel, because they will come in this year, you know, like, I mean, they do have the
plenty more in reserve.
Correct, plenty more in reserve. Like, I mean, who would have thought at the start of the year that you'd be looking at Merchant, Scully and Howard? You know, there's 3 kind of bolts, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Howard at least had the ringing endorsement from Dermot Connolly in the off-season going, this guy's pretty special, you keep an eye on him. But the other two, like, and even Scully starting yesterday, you're like, I know he's done well in a couple of games, and then he does really well, and you're like, okay. I mean, that half-forward line was so young, and, like, that started the game, and Conor Callahan as well. Like, they're a really young team. They completely, the churn from the first All-Ireland in this series of 4 to yesterday is unbelievable.
Yeah, and he's a lot of young guys actually in the programme. Like I was looking through, a lot of young guys in, that kind of from 24 to kind of 26, 27. Numbers wise on the panel.
Right. Yeah.
Very young, like 20, 21 years of age.
And they're just coming to peaks now as well. Yeah. So like I still don't think we've seen the very best of Kieran Kilkenny. I think that there's still room for him to get even better.
So the man beside him as well. Like Fenton. Ridiculous.
Hasn't lost a championship game.
No, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like he was getting some special treatment now yesterday by Myler. And to be fair, they put a guy who's a bit smaller than him, but he literally did not leave him alone. Like he was patting at him, he was shouldering him, he was getting into his face constantly, off the ball, on the ball, everything. And actually, it was quite interesting that when he went off, Fenton kicked his 2 scores, which were just too listen, give me the ball and just tap it over type thing. So
strolling through.
Oh,
it's amazing.
Jesus, yeah.
And he does it at pace that is completely understated as well. Dick Clerkin has one of the headlines of the day, but Tyrone start with intent but revert to type as the snore to 4 predictably plays out. That's your Irish Independent this morning. The Examiner, it's the same aspect, or same picture nearly, is for John Small, 2 red cards in a row.
Yeah, but that's, that's his edge. And that's what he's in there for.
No one cared.
No,
I didn't see the second booking, but
it was actually potentially a goal chance.
Right.
So it was a ball coming, and he kind of went in. He wasn't going to get it, so he just made sure that he got the man. He said, "Listen, I'm going to take a yellow here. I'm going to take a free rather than something else happening."
Even the subs weren't as effective as they have been in previous years. But Cormac Costello, his first touch was electric.
Yeah.
Dribble and pass 3 or 4 players, and it ends up
batting off the back of the butt of the post.
Yeah, I mean that was almost one of the great, that might be the greatest substitution moment that we've seen. 5 alive 0, so 5-5-5. It's all this becomes now
the next thing.
Yeah, and that is going to be very difficult to deal with, because every single conversation that we have with this team in their downtime now over the next 3 or 4 months is going to be the same conversation that MD was like, no, I'm not thinking about any of that stuff now, but it's going to be really
already
boring.
Started.
Yeah.
Sure. There was text coming in straight away after yesterday saying the drive for 5 type thing, and it's straight away it started. But the funny thing is, I watched the Miko documentary last week, and I know it was a repeat, but he said, whatever it was where they lost a couple in between, they could have potentially had 9 in a row.
Yeah.
And you kind of go,
that's the same as those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
So, what rhymes with 9?
Shine. Okay, so here is the other story that we actually just need to talk about for a couple of minutes. Ireland crisis. This is Philip Quinn. He kind of was writing this yesterday in the Mail on Sunday as well, but obviously with the Ireland football final, it probably didn't get as much play as it will today. Ireland manager Martin O'Neill is expected to confirm today that Harry Arter has asked not to be considered for international selection for the foreseeable future. He hasn't retired, but just doesn't want to be selected at the moment. He was named obviously in the squad, played yesterday the full 90 minutes for Cardiff, not injured. The FAI declined to comment on reports he'd withdrawn and said O'Neill will reveal his revised squad today. Arter and Roy Keane were involved in a verbal altercation in Dublin prior to the friendly with France in May. Declan Rice may also have been the subject of some comments from Roy Keane, is the other part of this story. So there's full details here. Philip Quinn starting with an Oscar Wilde quote. I mean, it's great stuff here. Sportsmail understands that Keane made a put-down remark to Arter about his fitness in the team hotel before Ireland played France in the summer, which led to the altercation spoken of by O'Neill recently. It's believed that Rice tried to act as a peacemaker in the squabble, and that Keane subsequently passed comment to him. While it's still uncertain, it's believed that this is at the root of the decisions by both players in requesting not to be considered for selection for the forthcoming games. So actually, maybe Declan Rice is not having doubts about playing for Ireland. He's just having doubts about playing for Roy Keane.
Yeah. I'm kind of, I'm a bit confused on it. I'm not confused by it, but I'm a bit kind of, I'd say Keane is an abrasive character. Like, I mean, he's also, I'd say, a fella who just likes to poke you if you're new to something. You know, he'll test you. You know, he'll test you on the field. He'll test you off the pitch. You know, one of these guys where he's saying something and he's kind of going, I'm messing with you. But he'd never actually say that. He's just seeing how's your reaction. I'd say he's a guy that is constantly just testing your mettle, you know, and seeing have you got whatever it is that he wants you to have. Because I've kind of seen him around, you know, of whatever I watch of international football, you see, you know, different things, and you, like the players, most of the players seem to have a decent rapport with him.
Yeah.
You know, when you see him on the training ground and he's laughing and joking with fellas, so you kind of go, okay, maybe he has a softer side, or I'd say he's the type of fella that, you know, if you're his type of a player, or you've put it in, well then he'll put the arm around you and he'll back you all the way. But I'd say if you are anyway on the edge, he'll completely block you out.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't surprise me. But at the same time, is it a bit of an overreaction? Is it a bit kind of throwing the toys dummy out with the toys? You know, I don't know. Like, I mean,
yes,
Arthur.
Yes and yes on this, right? There's like, so that version of the story is that basically Rice is a peacemaker. There's another version of the story where he's slagging off Rice about his family leaving Cork, and it's like, you know, your family should have stayed in Cork. You know, then like,
right, yeah.
And I said another version of the story. And so that, and Harry Arthur happens to be in the room, and then the Arthur altercation happens. Now, Martin O'Neill has confirmed the Arthur altercation has happened, and the Mail have now printed the fact that that's why Harry Arthur is not being in the squad, is not sticking in the squad. And now they've also printed the fact that there was some words were spoken with Rice. Yeah. The order of that's important. If it was just a joking thing, then it's an overreaction. And actually, you can see how this story gets back to the agent, and the agent goes, boom,
yeah,
here's our £1 million to sign the Nike boot deal with England. Like, you know, so a bunch of stuff happens. Roy Keane's involved, the story gets magnified.
Of course.
Or this is what happens when you have Roy Keane involved. Like, there was another row with John Walters, which was also has been referenced by O'Neill, and you know, I mean, John Walters and Roy Keane have history going all the way back to the time when Walters was first at Ipswich, and now John Walters is the only fit striker we have in the squad.
Yeah.
Do you really want, like, is this a good atmosphere?
No, is the answer. But that's what I suppose you get with Keane. So you have to have, if you're going to have the yin, you better have the yang. You better have O'Neill better be the peacemaker, or someone's got to be in there saying, listen, you know, it's only Roy blowing off some steam. He'll come around, because you have to have that. So I think if there is, I'd say there's an awful lot of repair work being done in the background here.
You'd hope so, because we just lost.
Because it's not like we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of players, especially, like, I mean, did you say Arthur is the only?
Well, he's one of our few, well, he's certainly one of our only fit central midfielder playing in the Premier League at the moment.
Yeah, so, you know, it's not like we're awash. So definitely...
you're not awash.
No. You need to start repairing some bridges here, I would think.
So there's a wraparound from the Herald, obviously. Fantastic Four, Dublin 217, Tyrone 114. The spread was exactly 6 points.
Yeah, nailed on. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, it should really have been 9 that, you know, they didn't really give away the penalty in the end. So the Carabao Cup. Gold Cup Hope presenting Percy in flying form. So already we're starting to count down to St. Patrick's Day in the racing world. The tabloids this morning, D4, I get it now. I saw one in the crowd, I said, what's that? What's that? Okay, I get it now. I mean, it's stupid, but I get it.
There we go.
And formidable dubs. There's posters in many of the newspapers today as well. Like, Cormac Costello can get better, can become someone who, like, has a Paul Mannion style influence on games.
It's funny, you know, you spoke there about the substitutes, and I'd have to go back, and because most of the games are pretty much nearly over, so it is hard. I watched Macaulay, I watched Costello, and I watched McManaman, you know, closely yesterday when they came on, and their MO is literally get the ball and stretch the opposition as hard and fast as you can. They don't come in to sit in and kind of play a defensive role. Now, of course, the two guys are forward, but Macaulay doesn't do that either. He's literally on the front foot all the time, and it's like, listen, we'll sit back here and we'll protect. You have to be the man who actually drives forward and goes at players. So that was the thing, and it's really, Costello got a point, McManaman got a point, and I think McManaman did, or Macaulay got one that he fisted over. But they could have, if they really wanted to, and they actually passed the ball around. Like, Tyrone were absolutely out on their feet at that stage. Like, they were hanging on, some of the defenders were hanging on by an absolute whisker. Like, they were just there to be taken.
There was one, McManaman tried to kick a point, but it ended up being kept in play by Tyrone, and then suddenly they're coming down the field again. You kind of felt like there was just a bit more surgical stuff going on for Dublin in previous seasons in stoppage time. But
you do, and again, you know, it's hard, and it is hard. Like, if you're listen, we don't know obviously we're not privy to what's going on behind at those games, but if you're seen as a finisher and you're seen as someone, I don't think necessarily Gavin. He has tried McManaman plenty of times as a starter. I think he has tried Costello a couple of times as well. Do they have? Because I tell you what the Mannion thing is, and this is something that, you know, people mightn't necessarily pick up. But Mannion made 2 serious soirees back into his back into his own defence. One in particular where should have, for all intents and purposes, could have been an easy goal for Tyrone. Where there was a Tyrone shot. It was half blocked. Went out to kind of left underneath the Hogan stand. I can't remember who the Tyrone man was coming in, but Mannion had tracked him all the way from his own spot as corner forward and managed to get in front of him and basically prevent a goal. Unbelievable tracking from a corner forward.
Moments after he'd won the penalty.
Correct.
And and he'd also been laid out. He got laid out he was getting treatment before he got up to take the penalty, and
then took it. And absolutely, like, I mean, the penalty was unstoppable as well. But they're the small little things, you know, those small little margins that all of a sudden that he doesn't do that. I don't know, I was speaking to you as well about the Donegal game where there was one of those classic kickouts from Donegal, ball was patted down to McHugh, and for all intents and purposes you're like, oh, I've seen this before, this is going to end up in the back of the net, because it was like, you know, 3 players coming against the defence with 3 guys inside. There was an overlap, and I think it was Johnny Cooper and McCarthy. I've never seen guys sprint back as fast, maybe even McCaffrey as well. But it was just the defending, and that is something that is missed. You don't get the cherries on top without having all the other stuff that they have, and they have plenty of that. And that is what you have to match first and foremost. And to be fair, Tyrone, for plenty of it yesterday, did.
Jack McCaffrey we were talking about this a couple of weeks back, has the chance to be the greatest footballer of all time if he continues on this path. Like, he's still only 24, 25. He's already man of the match, already a footballer of the year. You know, this is a year where he's just coming back off a cruciate injury, so he will get even better as time goes on. He's starting to add kick passing to his repertoire. Like, it's pace that we've never seen the likes of. So we were in Lower Hogan yesterday, and sometimes they're actually the best seats because you can feel the bangs with like only 10 rows back from the sideline, and you can feel the bangs, but you can also feel the pace. If that makes sense. When you're up high, it's like, wow, he moves much faster than everybody else. But like, when you're kind of on a level with them, you understand exactly what that pace means. It's just much easier to understand actual spatial terms. And it is pace that makes no sense. That he has control of a football and his faculties and is looking up, and as opposed to like just straight line speed where, you know, it's incredible. Just running. But he has every single time yesterday he probed, you know, which is fantastic. Like, he gets the ball, you're there, and he just goes, I can take you. And he just goes, you know, and if he managed to get the hand on him, he's so quick, he just comes back. But more often than not, he takes you, and all of a sudden he pulls 2 guys in towards him. Like, there was one actually where he kicked him actually a pretty tame enough shot at the end. I think he was caught between 2 minds. He was thinking, will I go for goal? Will I pop it over the bar? Remember that one in the first half? I think he kicked it into the goalkeeper's hands. But I thought he was having a cheeky goal.
Before that, but he laced through. He looked like a man possessed. He looked like a guy who had been, right, I'm out here to prove a point, because he sprinted in at half time. Like, I mean, he went like the fastest I've ever seen anyone sprint in from the far side to Cusack stand. He passed everyone out and went down the tunnel like a shot. And I was just thinking to myself, and you could see the passion of himself and his father after the game. They were enjoying it. He wanted to prove a point yesterday. Because
obviously he doesn't have all the medals because he took that year off. So, okay, so the Irish news for you here. Can have a look at that one. That is Don't Stop Believing, Urges Heart. I mean, Tyrone come out of it with enough credit to think that they could probably improve decision making, all that kind of stuff, and that actually they might get a little bit better into the future. Bore in a row is the other interesting headline. Scintillating Dublin, far too strong for Tyrone and everyone else. So
I think Tyrone will kick themselves a little bit. I think they will. You know, there was that period of 15, 20 minutes. It's the classic Dublin thing. You know, when I remember playing, and we used to play Dublin, and it was that swashbuckling Dublin, right?
Yeah.
It was literally just do your best to hang on to the coattails for the first 10, 15 minutes, because they always started fast.
Yeah.
And I remember we used to be 6, 7 points down, but then they'd hit a lull, and you'd end up coming back into the game, which inevitably did happen. But what they'll be just disappointed with is that they had that great period for 15, 20 minutes in the first 15, the first 15, 20 minutes.
Wides.
They kicked some bad wides and just some bad decision making, you know.
A quick look at the English back pages today. Mourinho's United front manager dedicates victory to Woodward after playing protest. So all is good at Manchester United for at least the international break after a 2-0 win yesterday. And England send India spinning to defeat. So Telegraph for you next. That's another England cricket story, and then a quick montage of the other newspapers. So Jose's rash bash, revival will take root, and then bosses go nuts. So we'll get to the football a little bit later.